Good evening. Good evening, everyone. No? Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try it again. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's Tim Gramling. I'm the Dean of the Dr. Robert K. Jabb School of Business. We're going to start in just a minute. We are overwhelmed, and that's a good thing, by your presence tonight and by the response. So let's give God some praise for this Faith and Enterprise event tonight. So just give us 2 more minutes. We're getting the last chairs set up, and then we'll be ready to begin, all right? All right, so just hang in there, and we'll be starting in just a minute. Good evening, everyone. Okay, one more time for a good measure. Good evening again, everyone. I'm so delighted to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for your patience as we got set up. I look forward to an amazing event tonight. Again, I'm Tim Gramling. I'm your dean, and I'm excited to have Faith and Enterprise. Everybody needs sales. Before we get going tonight, I'm going to pray and introduce our facilitator for tonight. But before I do that, I need to thank a few folks who are in the room with us tonight. It is always such a pleasure to have such strong support from our faculty team. So please join me in acknowledging a couple of our faculty members who are here, particularly first, Professor Dr. Keenan Alderson. Next, we have Professor Dr. Adele Harrison. And, of course, Dr. Sean Willis. Good to see you. Greetings. And very special thanks to the Associate Dean for the Marketing and Analytics Division, Dr. Marina Gershu. I'm delighted to see all of you here tonight. We'll thank some additional folks who helped us put this together. But without any further ado, let's take a moment, let's bow our heads, and let us pray. God, we are grateful for you tonight because you have blessed and kept and encouraged us and allowed us to come to this very special time, a particular area called sales that's been used and perhaps twisted in the world and turned into something it was never intended to be. God, my prayer tonight is that you would help us to understand sales from your perspective, that these professionals that share from their long experience would help our students in our audience to better understand the need for sales and the appropriate use, because we believe, God, that we can honor you even as we do our business. We ask you to touch all of us, touch each of our presenters, our facilitator, help us to have an amazing time and exchange tonight. Please do it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So, of course, before we go, I have one other faculty member who walked in the room. I need to acknowledge him. He's another one of our amazing professors in finance, Dr. Paul Wendy. So with that, please welcome our facilitator for tonight. She is on our administrative team here at the Dr. Robert K. Jabb School of Business. Please give a very warm welcome to your facilitator, Allie Ann Merrill.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Faith and Enterprise. As Dr. Gramling said, my name is Allie Ann, and I'm going to be the facilitator for tonight's event. I first want to start off by thanking you guys so much for joining us for our Faith and Enterprise this semester. This is our very first one. We're super excited with the turnout, so thank you as students for dedicating your time to being here tonight. Now, tonight we are going to be hearing from 5 different speakers who have worked in the industry as business leaders, and they're going to specifically be talking about sales and how sales have impacted their careers. Not only that, but they're also going to be talking about how their faith has been impacted and how they go about sharing their faith within their work industry. Now, before we bring the speakers up for tonight, let us begin with a Kahoot to see what your guys' view is on sales. Okay, so you guys can scan either the QR code or type in kahoot.it for it to pop up. Looks like you guys know what to do. And then go ahead and enter that game pin. The game pin is 3224301. All right, I'll give about 10 more seconds. If you haven't entered already, now's your chance to do so. The game pin 3224301. Okay, let us begin. If you haven't joined, you can join once we begin. What are your guys' thoughts on sales? Our first question. Think of your dream job / career. Do you think you will need sales skills? As you can see, there are a lot of people here. Okay, so we have 118 people that said yes and 14 people that said no. All right. Let's see if that number changes at the end of our event tonight. Okay. We have Metzi in the lead. Okay, in a word, one word, describe what you feel about sales. Five more seconds to get your answer in. $115 answers submitted. Wow. Okay, let's see what your guys' you can't see them. That's sad. Maybe because there were so many answers. Or maybe I need to click show. Okay. So, in a word, you guys said cool, nice, scared, necessary, persistent, money, mandatory. Okay, I see a lot of important and necessaries. Let's move to the next question. Have you taken any sales classes? This could be at CBU or maybe at another college or institution. Okay, we had 94 people say no. I'm a bit surprised by that. Okay, and we had 37 people say yes. All right, we still have, Top G is now on the board. Okay, our final question. What is your major? Okay, 49 business admin, 18 entrepreneurship, 32 finance, 32 accounting, 21 marketing, and 31 other. Well, for the others, welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay, now we are going to transition out of our Kahoot. Thank you guys so much for participating. Now, if you could please help welcome our panelist speakers for tonight's event. And then there's also microphones behind you, if you could grab those. There you go. Thank you. Okay. So from my left, your right, we have Rostin Willis. Yeah, woo! Rostin is a financial advisor at Edwards Jones. And then next we have Zach Mansell. He is the director of sales at Truce. Next we have Todd Prochko, and Todd is a recruiting manager at CED. Following Todd, we have Nick Boston. Nick is a district manager at the Inland Empire. And then last but not least, we have James Chung. Now, James is the co-founder / CEO of Free Birthday Zone. Alrighty, so tonight we're going to be asking the panelists some questions about their careers and in sales. If you guys can think of any questions at any point as they are speaking, we're going to have a QR code that will be up on the screen. Feel free to scan that at any point. Tonight, I will not be taking any answers from the audience. If you have a question that you'd like for me to ask, I would just ask that you scan the code, and then I'll get it and I'll read it off for you. And then finally, panelists, we ask each of you to please limit your responses to 2 minutes per each question. Alrighty, let us begin. So we'll start off with Rostin, and then we can either popcorn or move on down, however you guys would like. So the first question, in your current job / career, do you use sales skills? How have sales skills helped you in your positions? Please provide examples.
Yeah, first, hello, can you hear me? We're good? Okay, great. Well, first, let me start off by thanking everyone for coming here just as well. I appreciate it. I have Facebook Live as well, so for my Facebook fans, thank you so much. Got to send a shout out, right? That's what sales is all about, right? Recognizing people that are in the room. For me, coming into the finance industry, my first thought was that I was going to learn all this information and understand more about finance. And then as soon as I walked out of college, I was going to go into an investment firm or something of that nature and just be able to just share the information that I got. What I learned very shortly was that finance, especially when it comes to the ability to be able to facilitate or help individuals, first you got to get them in the seat, right? First you have to get people to trust you. And so based on that level of trust, based on the connection that you have with your, quote, prospects to turn them into actual clients is a process called sales. And so for me, sales is a part of everything that I do. It's from the branding and the marketing. It's from the connections from the individuals that I talk to. There was a time I was in Starbucks and I was just having a cup of coffee, and I got my very first client in Starbucks with a cup of coffee. And I didn't realize it then, but the opportunity that was presented and the way that I presented myself in that conversation was a part of sales. So recognizing that sales is a very critical part of not just myself, but also my practice, and also recognizing that even sitting here in this room to be able to provide these type of answers and connect with individuals in this room, there could be someone in here that would be an opportunity in the future. So understanding how important sales is for me and for my practice, and recognizing that you're always on the stage, whether or not you're here or you're just sitting down having a cup of coffee, is very critical and very important.
To piggyback on Roston, for myself, sales is something that I'm always doing. From communicating with my team to potential clients. Sales really is the art form of influence and communication. And so when you can really master skills within communication, you're selling. You're selling yourself. You're selling what you represent, and all that you do for whatever company you're with. It's an art of selling. And so I think to answer the question, the skills that I have that I use in sales are used constantly, and so that's what I would say.
So I'm going to just go right at it. I'm one of these people that got into a career that had sales in the career and was very disappointed when I found that out. I was like, I got into doing what I do, which is recruiting. And it's, I'm working with people. So I'm not working with a product that doesn't have an opinion. I'm dealing with people who have thoughts and ideas and want to know what's going on. So I have to be in sales every day with the people that I recruit, and also with clients or managers. But when I got into recruiting, I thought it was just interviewing people. I thought, this is great. And then I realized quickly that I was in sales, and like I said, I was very disappointed initially. Then I learned that I really like sales, and we're going to get into that, I think, tonight on the goods and the bads, but I'm one of those people that did a complete 180 in thinking that sales was awful without knowing what it was, and then when I got into it, really enjoying it. I have a saying that I say to people, and that is, you're only strangers once. And I think about that all the time. You only are a stranger with a person one time. After that, you already have made some sort of contact. And I think that's really key to doing well in life, but specifically in sales.
Yeah, so we work for a sales organization, Todd and I, and that is ultimately what we do. It is, problem solving. It is finding solutions for people. It is not just trying to transactionally get the most money off of somebody and then move on. What we do is we're distributors, so we've got vendors and customers. And even the vendors that I buy from, I consider my customers, because without them, I don't have anything to sell. I don't have customers. So selling is just constantly providing value for people. And that can be for my employees also. It can be for anybody in my company. And it's a joy, in my opinion, because it's something that you get up to do. And it might seem like a grind sometimes, and believe me, there's good days and bad days, but it's an ultimately satisfying job. And I think that's probably something that I would want to communicate to everybody, is that sales can really be satisfying. So in my position currently, I'm a district manager. I'm not an outside salesperson anymore, but I manage outside salespeople. But again, I still have to have relationships with everybody in my organization, and I have to cultivate those those relationships, and I have to make sure that I'm providing value. That's what I enjoy, and fortunately, I get to do it every day.
Good answer. I'll just pass the mic down that way. I'm the CEO of freebirthdayzone.com. It's a local website here in Riverside that you draw your attention to the retail stores that are out there, your restaurants, your coffee shops. Everyone's giving you a free gift for your birthday, and you get to go there for your birthday month and get a free gift, or many free gifts, probably about 20 of them here in the area. And so my clientele are the retail store owners. And I tell you, owners are so busy, right? They're busier than your best friend, or busier than your parents, or busier than whoever's busy in your life right now. They're very, very busy people. So for a salesperson to knock on their door and say, can I have 15 to 20 minutes of your time? It's almost impossible, right? And so I've learned the art of sales is relationship building. When you're stepping into their restaurant or their storefront, are you generous? Are you polite? Or do you kind of just barge in there asking to talk to someone, right? And so I'm very relational in my approach, and I think it's not just a quick, I'm going to close the deal and then we're done kind of relationship. It's a long-term relationship that you get into. Some of my customers are I would say some of my closer friends now. We talk about personal things. They show me their vacation photos, and it's just sweet over time. So I would say if you get into sales, don't think of it as a career where you just earn an income. I mean, it's very lucrative, but it's about building relationships with more and more people and just enjoying life.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for sharing. One thing that stood out to me as you guys were answering those questions is the importance of relationship building. Rostin even mentioned, the relationships don't necessarily just happen in the normal workspace. It could happen in a Starbucks. And also another thing that I really liked is what Nick was talking about in terms of not viewing the person as an actual person, not just a means to make money, but that each individual is their own unique person. Thank you, guys. So for our next question, I would like you guys to throw back earlier into your career and possibly think about your journey with learning and using sales. Did you guys know sales skills were valuable? And has it always been easy in your career when you had limited sales skills? What was that growth like for you? And if we could start with Zach, that would be excellent.
Awesome. Well, when I first got into sales, it was right after I got out of the Air Force, and I was looking for a job in Charleston, South Carolina. And I saw an opportunity to work for a home improvement company, and the job posting said no experience needed. So I applied not knowing what it was, and really they had an awesome training program that I got to go in and really build a foundation of skills that has followed me since that position. And so going in it not knowing anything, and from the positions I've had since then, it's just been a compounding effect of learning. So I would say sales is always learning. I think that the biggest tool in sales is your ears. When you're able to listen to people and connect with them, build that relationship, but use your ears to listen to what's going on, to find out the root of the problem and how you can offer a solution in a way that benefits the customer or client. That's what I would say.
So I got into my career randomly. I moved to Los Angeles 25 years ago. I had $200, knew one person, and came to LA. That was it. Slept on a pile of clothes on the floor, and I have this addiction to eating, so I kept looking for a job. And I ended up getting into recruiting. It was just one of those things where I kind of had to beg the guy to give me a shot. I had met this guy, made a contact, and long story short, I got into it and loved the career, and I felt that it worked for me. Again, like I said in my first answer, I was a person, and I talk to college students all the time, and I think a lot of college students are scared of sales. They think it's like well, I would do management, but I don't really want to do sales. Or they act like sales is a last resort. That's their perception, you know. That was my perception. And what I figured out in 25 years is sales is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's making friends. It's providing solutions. It's making relationships. We have a manager that's been in our business for 50 years, and he has a party every summer, and he has about 300 people there. Glenn? Oh, yeah. And my second year at this party, I had my arm around him, and I said, so these people out here, who's friends, who's family, who's customers? He goes, I don't even know anymore. They're all friends. They're all... So I think ideally, that's what sales can do for you. It can be a great career to make money and make a living and progress, but you make great connections with people. And that's what I like about my job.
So I always say that I didn't find sales, sales found me. My first job, I was 15 years old, and I was the guy who stood outside of grocery stores having people sign campaign petitions, basically, right? So they're trying to pass some kind of law, get it on the ballot, whatever it might be. Hate to break it to you, those people make money. So you might think they do it just for the love of it, but they make money. And so I would make 50 cents a signature. And so I quickly realized that, you know, I could get 50 cents if I talked to this person, but then if I had multiple clipboards with multiple sheets, I could have this person looking at it, reading it, and then I could go talk to somebody else and have them looking at it, reading it, and go talk to somebody else. And then quickly this started piling up, right? And, you know, I was 15 years old making $1,000 a week. And I thought, you know, this isn't bad. I'm just talking to people, you know, kind of talking about their day, what they were shopping for, getting to know them. And they ended up signing this, and they moved on. Now, unfortunately, when April came around, I realized I was an I-9 and I had to pay taxes. So that didn't work out so well. But I quickly thought that this is something that I could do for life. And ever since then, I've had performance-based jobs where my compensation was performance-based. And that's something that I've always wanted, because I didn't want to make the same amount of money as the person next to me. If I worked my tail off, I wanted to be ahead. I wanted to be rewarded for that effort. And so ever since, you know, whether it be selling shoes at Foot Locker or, you know, now I'm selling electrical supplies, it really doesn't matter the product that you're selling. It's the style and what you do. And again, it's problem solving, building relationships, finding ways to add value. I can't hammer that home enough. And once you get in your groove, it's not even really work. Now, when you're starting to get going in sales and you're building your clientele base, that's tough. But once you get there and you get established, you can make very good money just going around and talking to your friends and finding out what their business problems are, helping solve it, and oh, by the way, how are the kids? How about that Super Bowl? You know, who do you got on Sunday kind of a thing. So I enjoy it, and it's just something that I've always done in my life.
Awesome, awesome. Quick question. Who remembers the fourth grade? Who remembers your fourth grade class, your teacher, and how you were, your friends even, right? I hear, you know, legend says that the fourth grade year is your most memorable year in all of elementary school. And that's how it was for me. I remember my teacher, everything that I did, wrote poems for girls, you know, but that was just back then, sweetie. But it was true. I used to be a poet, and I had one for you guys tonight, but I couldn't find it, so I won't do it tonight. But anyways, I learned how to do sales. I sold cinnamon toothpicks in the fourth grade. I would go home after school, go to the local pharmacy, get the cinnamon oil. You know, as a kid, use my allowance to buy that. And then I would get toothpicks and soak them overnight, right? Prepare it. The next day, get the baggies, put the toothpicks in there, and take them to school. And there I was with my business, right? Little did I know I was an entrepreneur, or whatever you would call it nowadays, but I was just doing what I thought was right, trying to help my friends. And they would give me their lunch money, of course, and buy these toothpicks every day of the week. So I was making $20 a day, you know, as a kid, doing sales at school, right? And so, and I guess the principal was okay with it. Nobody said anything bad about it, so it was fine. But I learned that I had a gift, and I think many of us in this room probably have that same gift. Maybe we're a little shy about it, like, oh, no, I can't do sales. I'm not good enough, or I can't talk well enough, or I just get nervous in public or whatever. But you have it, and if you have it, the best thing to do is to use it to the best of your ability. In the professional world, it makes a big difference. You could work for, my first sales job was a big biotech company in the Bay Area. I graduated from Cal Berkeley. back in '94, so I'll date myself, and it's okay. And then my first job was at Biorad Laboratories, which is this huge biotech company up there. And I remember my very first day of sales, I flew to Seattle, Washington to meet the salesperson, the senior salesperson training me. And he's like, okay, James, I did the demo for you. I sold off the brochure. You know, now it's your turn. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm standing next to these scientists and these professors, and I'm like intimidated. And but he hands me this brochure, and I get it. And I look down, and all of a sudden the lights just turned on, right? I was energized. I had this, I don't know what it was that came over me, but I started talking about all the different things in the brochure, making good eye contact, almost being winsome, right? And sure enough, they were buying products off of me. I thought, I could do this for a living, you know? So you might have that aha moment, or you may not, but either way, it's like these guys are saying, it's a great ride, so.
I guess that leaves me then, right? Okay. So, you know, I must admit, I hear, you know, everyone talking about sales, and I can tell you my very first sales job was when I was in the 6th grade, right? Which is crazy to me. But I went out, and my parents took me to Costco, Sam's, whatever you want to call it now, and I would go get these Twix, right? And I would go to the school, and then all of a sudden I would sell them, but I would buy the big bulk of Twix, and then I would sell it to the students that was there, because we didn't have vending machines in the school that I went to. And then all of a sudden I realized I can actually sell it for like 50 cents. I know back then it was a lot, 50 cents, but I got like a 25 cents profit over it. And so I said, you know what, Mom, hey, this weekend, can we go back and do it again? And then we did it again. I said, but you know, some kids are asking for Snickers bars, so can we get Twix and Snickers, right? And then she said, okay, so then it went from Twix and Snickers and M&Ms, and then from M&Ms, and then I started selling juice. And all of a sudden, I realized that I was probably, I'm going to find out if this is true or not, but I was probably the first vending machine in my neighborhood, right? And the reality was, as long as I was doing that and I was making money, I was happy. Right? I was making money and I was happy. And for whatever reason, that little bug got into me, and I was like, you know, I really like money. I really like money. Because now instead of getting the student lunch, I would get, you know, Pizza Hut or Taco Bell or whatever they had at the school. And so my mindset and my mantra about sales early on was that it could be very profitable, right? But now let's enter into the realistic part of it. Because after I got out of that and I was able to do that for that specific time, I also didn't have bills in the 6th grade. And I also did not have to worry about the responsibility of life. And then all of a sudden you get put into a position where now your livelihood is you counting on making money to survive. And those no's started to hit a little bit harder, right? Because if you told me no in 6th grade, you said you had M&Ms, I didn't have any more, that was fine. But now I'm in a position where those no's hit harder because, oh, by the way, I'm all commission. And that process of sales, although on the other side can be extremely profitable, it can also be extremely good for you financially. If you're like a person like me where I'm a little bit, you know, I kind of know my worth in some sort, I hate no. Don't tell me no. Especially if I'm telling you exactly what you probably want to hear, or I give you the benefits and the features of what you have. So even though sales has come naturally to me, and it's something that I've been doing for quite some time, to know the struggles that come along with sales, to recognize that it's not going to be a piece of cake for you. And I can tell you, all these gentlemen here, they love sales, but if we were to talk about our very beginning, right? Our very beginning was not all roses. And I don't even have to look down the line. I know what it is, because I've been doing sales for almost 20 years. My last position, I was the vice president of sales. I run my own business now. Before that, I was a director of sales for Fortune 500 companies, international companies all the way. And every month, you have that guideline, you have that deadline, right? You have to hit it. Those are some sleepless nights for you. But if you stick with it, and you pray, and you give God the glory for what he's provided you with, the opportunity that you have when you knock on those doors, you can get to a place where things are much more sweeter, where you get much more profitability out of it. So for me, the story is always bittersweet. You have two sides to that story. And I don't want to sit here and just give you the positive portion of it. I want you to understand that it is a responsibility, that you have to be able to endure to get to the other side. So that's my story.
Excellent, thank you.
So much better when you do, right?
It is much better when you do. It's very better when you do.
Thank you guys for sharing and for thinking back to some of your earliest memories of when you started beginning sales. Something that was brought to my mind as you guys were speaking is that you mentioned that there's certainly some highs when it comes to sales, and you also have those lows, and those can be some really low lows, but recognizing that your identity doesn't lie in, how much commission you're getting or how much you're making, but rather our identity lies in Christ. Now, to move on to our next question, it was actually a student question. So this one is, can you think of an instance where you have been able to integrate your faith into your work? If so, when was that time?
So I've actually been pretty blessed with my current role. So I'm the director of sales for a software startup company called Trust, and I met the founder of that company at church years ago when I moved back to California, and he offered me a job doing mortgages with him. So I got plugged in with him doing mortgages, and that was the most awesome work environment up until now, because he was a Christian and he dedicated his work to Christ. And being on his team, we would pray. We'd pray to start our day, and we would turn our work into our mission field. And that has kind of crossed over into this company, because the friend that I had that started the company, our whole executive team are Christians, and we have dedicated the company to Christ. And we see when we interact with clients and we make sales calls, that is our opportunity to show Christ and the way we interact with strangers. And so it's just an awesome thing to do and something to be proud of, to be able to have your work as your mission field.
Yeah, so for me, again, having the opportunity to be in the industry for some time, it's always a hopefully progression up for you, right? You don't want to go backwards. And so, I think about, from a biblical standpoint, when we see David, we know that David was probably one of the greatest kings in the Bible, right? As a matter of fact, God said that he was a man after his own heart. But let's not forget that David also was anointed to be king when he was a boy, and he had to go on the backside of the mountain, right? That period on the backside of the mountain was his time to prove himself. And there was a lot of things that happened on the backside of that mountain that I'm sure challenged him. You even know some of his stories, probably the one more popular is Bathsheba, and we're not going to go there today. But the reality is that we're all tested. Jesus went through being baptized in Jordan, and then he ended up having to go to the wilderness for 40 days to be tested, right? And so when you're in that testing mode, it is very common for us to have ethical challenges in our own personal places, right? You're going to have it, but it's what you do to come out on the other side is what's important, right? So for me, being able to be in a position to have my own practice and be able to run my own practice, and actually when I have my partner here as well, and when someone says that they're hurting or something is going on, I'm going to pray for you. That liberty that I have to be able to say that, but before I got to that place, I had to earn it. Right? And so I thank God that I'm in a position now where I can actually tell people I'm a Christian. I'm on Facebook Live now. I have almost 2,000 followers for me, and every one of them either are my clients or my friends or my family. And to be able to come up and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be guest speaking on a panel board at a Christian university is liberating. So understanding what God has called me to do, recognizing my responsibility, and knowing that it's going to be a test and a trial, but being able to be in front and say, I'm going to do it no matter what, is what's kept me alive, what's kept me going, and it's what's founded me in my practice and also my life as well.
I think for me, faith has always been something I've had since I was a little kid, and it's grown over time. And as my relationship with Christ has grown, looking for moments to exercise that in work, it comes here and there. I think in work, in any work situation, it's going to vary what you're able to do based on the work situation you're in, because everybody has different work environments. But it's always helped me. My faith has always been a guide for me in what I can, will, and will not do in my professional life. And so I think it's a very individual situation, but it does come up when I am talking to people in situations, if they bring things up, or we'll see something in my office or anything, and we'll have conversations. That's the guide. God is a guiding principle in my life at the end of the day, so I want to give honor and glory to him where it's possible.
So sales can be a grind. I think Rostin hit on it earlier, when especially you've got a family that you got to support. There can be some difficult times that you've got to believe that there's a reason for this, and there's a purpose for what you're doing. I'm in the construction industry, so the products that I supply build buildings, brick and mortar, physical, tangible things. And I was on the freeway the other day, the 15 freeway, and a contractor's truck drove by me, and on the back was their slogan, which said, "We exist to do great things. We exist to build great things," excuse me. And it's amazing, we're not here just for our own self-interest, to be by ourselves. We are put here sometimes to go through the grind, right? Divine providence works through human agency. And through that, through collaboration, we can do amazing things. And sales can be that straw that stirs the drink and that puts the pieces together in amazing ways. So normally, obviously, I do commercial projects, residential projects, and a couple years ago, one of my customers came to me and said, I attend this church up in the Mission Grove area of Riverside, and he was a contractor. He said, "I'm getting my friend that's an engineer, my friend that's a general contractor. We're all getting together, and we're going to build homes for people to get homeless families off of the street. And we were wondering if you were interested in doing that and helping us." So we supplied the electrical material. There was carpenters, plumbers, drywallers. Everybody supplied just a little piece, but through that collaboration, we were able to do amazing things. And we got people off of the street. It was families, single moms with kids, got them off the street, got them in homes, and helped them get jobs and get their lives back together. So that was something where I realized I'm a piece of a greater whole. And it's God that gives us that direction. And everything is, to Todd's point, everything is his service. And it's to, the glory of God that we're here. And people who have the abilities have the responsibilities also. And I take my responsibility very seriously.
Amen. Yeah, so freebirthdzone.com, our tagline is actually celebrate birthdays, celebrate life. And it's based off of John 10:10, which is, "I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly." And so I preface that by saying, when in business, I don't really distinguish ministry and business. I used to, until my wife enlightened me and said that the same thing, James. And so I realized that your business is your ministry. So maybe some of you are thinking, well, I'm a Christian. I go to a Christian university. When I graduate, I want to serve God, which we all should say those things, right? But then how do I serve God? As a salesperson? Well, isn't that just a secular job, though, right? You might think, well, how does that really glorify God? But no, your occupation, your career, those are ways you do glorify God. It's a worship. It's the way you serve. And it's a benefit because you could do that for a living too, right? But my thing is, I met a gentleman, I'll call him Bob, just because I don't want to give his name out, but I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce in Riverside, and I met Bob there one day, and he had his polo on, his company polo, and he's a very bright person, big smile, blonde hair, nice-looking gentleman, and I remember meeting him for the first time and talking to him, and over the course of time, he goes, "James, you're a salesperson, right? Can you coach me in sales?" And that was something that I had as a service, but I was kind of shy about it. I didn't really tap into that a whole lot. But I said, yeah, I'll coach you, and we can meet at the coffee shop once a week and talk about sales. So he had a voice over IP phone system, phone company, and so he's the founder and CEO. And so we met at a coffee shop, right? And so over time, I started talking to him. I go, man, I want to really minister to this guy because he didn't know the Lord. And so over time, I just started to pray, God, how can I reach Bob and all this stuff? And God brought this book to mind. I don't know if you guys know Robert Morris or if you're a fan or not, but he had this book called The Power of Words, right? So we're talking sales, right? It's a lot of words in sales, so let's give them the right words, right? So I bought this book for him, and I gave it to him one coffee meeting. And so he was appreciative. Thank you. Yeah, this is great, a book. I could read it and learn something. And he started to really get into it. And the book talks about how to use the right words, follow the Bible, and use words of truth and things like that, words of love. And so Bob started doing that. And over time, he just continued to light up more and more. And then he started to read the Bible, and then he started to ask questions about the Bible. And I'm going, wow, this guy's getting really serious. So I think I invited him to church or something. He came to our small group a couple times. And one day over the phone, we just talked, and he accepted Christ, you know. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do, because it doesn't happen a lot with me, like a one-on-one phone conversation. He became a Christian with me over the phone. And I was blown away, like, wow, you know, the Lord just blessed me with this person that I just shared the gospel with. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, business and ministry, it's, I don't know. I mean, I know there's a formal missionary pastor route if you want to go down that road in full-time ministry, but don't be shy about using your occupation as your ministry.
Excellent. I find it very encouraging with you guys mostly basing your income on your clientele, not being afraid to disclose your faith and having your faith and belief in Jesus Christ being of utmost priority. It's also an encouragement to see that despite, you know, you putting that out there, your faith, that it doesn't impact your income so much to where you're afraid to do it, or if it does impact it, you're still not afraid to stand up for what you believe in the truth of Jesus Christ our Lord. Okay, so our next question is, how do you see, so this is a two-part question, by the way. It is, how do you see business careers for the next decade? And do you believe that all business people need more sales skills regardless of if their position is specific in sales?
I'll get going. This is a great question, and it really hits home to what's going on in the economy and society. We are on the cusp of automation becoming more and more prevalent, robotics, AI. There are a lot of careers that are going to become obsolete here in the next 10 to 20 years. I firmly believe that sales and relationship building is going to be a career that endures. And whether it's, again, selling electrical products or selling medical services or anything that requires human-to-human interaction, in my opinion, is a version of sales. It's understanding people's needs, listening to them, coming up with solutions together, working collaboratively. That is not going to become obsolete. So please, figure out some way where you can incorporate that into whatever career choice and career path you want to go on, because that is what's going to last. More and more we're just starting to see, and maybe it's not customer service people that are in call centers, but again, people that interact and build relationships is something that's going to find a way to still provide value in a career, again, not only financially, but obviously in other ways, spiritually and purposefully. Please consider that at this point in your life. You've got so much time ahead of you. It's amazing how things can change overnight. I've been doing this for 15 years. It felt like a blur. And things have changed so dramatically since I got in this business. Automation has become a reality. And more I'm starting to see how that's taking positions. Computers don't call out sick, right? It's something that people look at that are up above, that are crunching numbers and trying to figure out how to add value to the bottom line. Find a way that you can build relationships with people.
I agree with all that. I'll answer the first part very quickly because I think you hit a lot of it. Get into a career if you're going to be in sales where you have a knowledge set that you own. I think that's key. I think if you can get into an industry and become an expert and you have abilities in areas where other people don't, you're going to have job security. The second part of the question, do I think students need to study sales? Is that what you said, Eliane? Yes. I can't say yes loudly enough, for sure. And I think it's an area where most students are either don't think it's necessary or they're scared of it. So you all being here tonight, good for all of you. I mean, you're all taking a step in the right direction. Again, take the word sales out of it. Put another word in there, and it's It's building relationships with people. It's being a people person. It's having a knowledge set. It's being able to communicate with people information that they want and need to make a decision. There's a substantive phrase for sales. So I absolutely think it's so critical in business. And you guys are all smart for being here.
You know, sales is definitely changing. Within our organization, we are actually implementing machine learning and AI within our sales processes. So it is definitely changing, as they said, but it's not going away. Sales is always going to be around, and I think you all should learn sales skills. They're interchangeable, and I know Dr. Alderson actually has a sales class that you all should be rushing to enroll in. And so I think you guys could get a lot of value from that class that is being offered here.
That was a pretty good plug, by the way. So, you know, I was shocked. I'm in finance. I was shocked to know that the very first, quote, stock market was back in this late 1700s here in the United States, right? I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there was a stock market then? Because what you learn, by the way, I'm a huge student of the game. When it comes to business, I love business. It's just what it is. It doesn't matter what your discipline is. It doesn't matter where you are, what you do. If you're a nurse or if you're a doctor or if you're a person running a McDonald's, it's all business. That's what it is, right? This school, are we live? It's business. How do we connect with people to influence them to see the value that's in something and share that value to convince them to come and say yes, right? That's what it is. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's the point of it. It's building the relationship, okay? And so when we think about business and the evolution of business and how important that is, you can take something as small as your phone and your social media. I mean, back in the day, it was a newspaper with the classified and a clip in the newspaper, and then that went from the newspaper to be on a billboard, right? And then the billboard went to be on television. The television went to be where? On social media, and social media is now in your pocket. If you say something, it pops up on your media feed. But guess what it is? It's still the newspaper clipping. That's all it is. It's just gone from the newspaper to your pocket. The reality is that you have to be able to evolve with times. And business is one of those industries that despite where you are or what your discipline is, it is an evolution that is going to be necessary from now until eternity. So when we say 10 years, you got to go beyond 10 years and you got to say, what's the next move for us? Is it virtual reality? Is it space travel, right? I mean, I know we're getting too far here, but the reality is business is going to be important. The second part to this question was whether or not you need to take sales, I think, I can't remember the speaker's name, but it is about the relationship building, okay? It doesn't matter if you're a nurse and you're at a bedside table with an individual. Guess what you're doing? You're selling. You are selling you, right? That's the importance of sales. And so to understand it, to know the mechanics of it, to recognize its importance is going to be critical in whatever you do in any industry. And so, yes, it's very important that you do that. And the more you know, the more efficient you can be. The more efficient you are, the better you're going to be. The more you can, quote, live your purpose. All right? That's my answer.
Another show of hands. How many in this room are married? Any married students already? Awesome. Or faculty and staff, I guess, too, and anybody else? How many would like to get married in the future? Who aspires to marriage one day in the future? And then go one more step. Who wants to have children? Children in the future, right? People like, kids, right? So, you know what? You guys all need to study sales. No joke, You're selling things to your wife, your husband. You're selling your ideas. Let's do this. Let's go to this vacation. No, this vacation. Why? What's the budget? And you're selling to your children all the time. We got to negotiate McDonald's versus Burger King. I mean, come on, right? It's again, we hear the word relationship, and I think that's a huge takeaway for anybody in the room today, right? Is it's relationship building, but it's through a skill. It's not just be my friend and let's be friends and hang out. But let's talk about things. Let's ask good questions. Let's probe. Let's not just take the surface yes or no. Well, why? And get them to talk, elaborate. It's a skill set that will help you build your family up. I don't like intentionally think I'm selling my family, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, but I do use a lot of my skills, you know, by asking good questions. We hear stay away from the yes and no questions, right, in business, and that's very true. You want to ask the open-ended questions, like not do you want this or not. You say, why do you want this? How would you like this, you know, and let them elaborate and open up to you. So yeah, those are some subtle things that will help you in practical life and in business as well. And like my gentleman said at the very end, nurses are selling bedside manners all the time. So you don't have to be a salesperson to have the need for sales skills. You could be a great CEO. Right? If you guys want to be business owners or CEOs in the future, you'll need some good sales skills, a lot of people on your team to sell ideas to. And so, and sales isn't just a product all the time, like a physical, tangible product. Sometimes it's an idea or a thought or something like that.
Certainly. Thank you guys for sharing that sales isn't necessary just in the sales field, but it's necessary in every aspect of our lives. Now, something I wanted to bring up, a question from the audience, is oftentimes people might be afraid of rejection. So what would you guys say to that? Like dealing with sales and getting rejected, how do you handle it? How do you respond? How do you feel?
The only way to get over it is to do it. And it's part of the process. That's part of life. The more you get rejected, the less it hurts, I guess is the best way I could say it. So keep getting after it. Don't get down on yourself. That's where faith, in my opinion, comes into the process. Know that you're doing this for a reason. There's that invisible hand that just keeps pushing you forward. Trust that.
Something I tell people when I do interviews and we're talking about sales is you get better at sales, the better you get in your career. So like this gentleman in the end was saying, you know, when you start out, it's rough. When I got into doing what I was doing, what I do for a living, when I told you I moved here and I started working in recruiting, this was in the 90s. So we had desk phones. And we didn't really have all the online stuff. It was like faxed resumes and
Green screens.
Yeah, dial phones. And so I would be on the phone with a new client, and they would ask me something about a fee or our terms or whatever. I was, you know, cold calling, trying to develop a client list. And I'd go, I don't know. Hang on. And I'd put him on hold, and I'd go into the boss, and I'd go, what do I tell him? Like, what do I say? He's asking me this. And he'd go, tell him this. And I'd go back and go, I'm to the point now where nobody's rarely going to ask me a question I don't have an answer for. So that makes it real easy to do sales when you know your subject, you know the answers. So, I mean, if you look at your experienced salespeople, they know what they're doing. So if you want to get into sales, my recommendation is give it a try, because sales guides everything. If you're in sales, you're in the part of the business that makes money and generates business, so you're always going to have a job. Companies don't cut those people, right? But, you know, if you find the right kind of sales, it's not going to be constant rejection. And you will get rejection, but you're going to get rejection in life as you go along here and there. So just learn to take rejection, because it's going to happen. And if you learn how to take rejection, you're going to be a lot stronger for it, because it's just a part of life.
So like the gentleman to the right of me said, there's a lot of different types of sales that have different processes and strategies. And part of that, no matter what the strategy is, there's going to be a rejection. And I think that the biggest thing to go in, if you're going into a sales position, expect it, expect the rejection, and go in it deciding that you're not going to take it personal. So I don't know how many of you guys have bad days. I know I have bad days. And sometimes you catch someone on a bad day, and the call or the encounter with the person might not go well. And so that's kind of where we can just step back, not take it personal, pray for them, and take that as an opportunity to pray. Because rejection comes, and in a bad encounter, you could face that. And so I think the biggest thing is not taking it personal. And you have to go into it expecting it and knowing you're not going to take it personal, like I said.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make sure 2 minutes. I got it. So I remember when I first started, I was a vice president of an international company. I was like red hot. I was doing really, really well. You get a new car every year. They pay for your gas. They pay for the fast track. I mean, trust me, it was a very, very, very lucrative opportunity. And then I left there and I said, you know what? I want to do personal finance. So I went and decided to do my own business at Jones and do that franchise. And I remember walking out dressed almost like this, not quite like this, but like this to the certain part. It was 120 degrees outside. And I went and I knocked on the door. And the person's door that I knocked on came to the door. They had on flip-flops and they had like the little, the tank tops that people wear at Walmart with the ketchup stain. You know the uniform, the national uniform that you get when you go at 10 o'clock at night to Walmart. And and I remember, going to them with a graduate degree and a lot of salt and being able to have, a lot of money in the bank account and just asking them, hey, I'm getting ready to start a business here in this area. Just wanted to let you know that I'm in the area and to see if you had a need for a financial advisor and all this other great stuff, and watch them literally with the sandwich falling out of their hands tell me to get lost, and how dare I come to their door as they sick their dog on me because they were more important than I was, and then have them slam the door on me, and then me try to shake it off and go to the next door just to find the exact same thing happen to me over and over again. And I would knock on doors in a suit and a tie with a graduate degree, making over 6 figures just for people to tell me that they don't need me. And boy, oh boy, did that really hurt a lot. Right. This is, by the way, after I was successful in a specific career and had moved. And I remember getting on my knees and I remember praying. I said, Lord, I'm not going to be able to do this. You got to take this from me. You got to take this cup from me because this is too much. I'm going there and I'm trying to provide value, but they're just not hearing me. What is it? And I remember it was Lent. I can't remember, what year it was, but it was when you're supposed to fast for something, and I was fasting for something. I was fasting because I was hurting. I was fasting because they kept slamming doors in my face. And then I remember one day I was on my knees and I was praying. And in the silence, God told me, you think you get rejected. What do you think I get? God, that thing sent chills all the way through my body, because it was that moment that I recognized that even our Savior got persecuted. Even him, he got rejected. Not only did he get rejected, but he's still getting rejected. He's going to continue to get rejected. So how big was my story in comparison? And when I heard that voice from him, it made me start to make a direct line between my rejection and what he goes through, recognizing that my importance is not as important as he is, and realizing that it is a process, it's a journey, it's something that I will have to connect to the source, in this case, Jesus Christ. And if I do that, if I can understand his affliction, if I can understand what he went through, then mine doesn't seem as big. So when I walk into people and when I talk to individuals and they tell me no now, well, you know what I think internally? I go, that's okay. I'll just move on to the next one. Just like God is doing and Jesus is doing in this world that desperately needs him. So the way that your mentality works, the whole point of this statement is it's your mentality of how you get through that. If you can find a way to put your mind in a position to overcome those objectives and recognize where your Savior and what he has to go through, I think it'll be a little bit easier for you to recognize your purpose. It'll be easier for you to get through those objectives, and it'll be easier for you to keep pushing. So that's my story.
Yeah, for me, I was a part of the mortgage industry for some years, and early on in my career in the mortgage industry, you do those jobs where you just make high volume phone calls. I mean, I was a lead generator, just qualifying quickly and getting the lead for the mortgage reps, and I was on a speed dialer. So, I mean, it's like a headset, a clicker, and a computer screen, and I was making 350 dials a day. And I'm like, okay, what part of this seems attractive here? But you just do what you got to do, and that was probably one of the best learning experiences I've ever had, because you had to realize out of the 350 calls, how many rejections do you think I got every day, right? Probably 80% of them or more. And but when I get that one, right, hey, you got the lead, it made up for it, and you feel like you're on top of the world, right? Everyone in sales, there's lots of rewards. They'll take you out to lunch or take you out to dinner. You get a car a year, I didn't get that in my sales career, unfortunately. I got, James, you get the Domino's pizza. He won. But, you get what you get in life, right? It was fun. I enjoyed it. and then you get promoted by God, right? So God watches, he sees your sufferings early on in your career, and he knows, and you'll get the rewards later on as you grow.
So just real quick, I know I had my response, but I got a little bit more to add. I'm also a Little League coach. I got roped into coaching both my older son and my younger son, and I like to equate sales to baseball because baseball is a game of failure. If you're successful 3 out of 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame, okay? You got to have that mindset when you're doing sales. And I teach these little kids, failure is not a personality trait. It's an event. It's something that happens to you. It does not define you. And the best baseball players fail constantly. And guess what? When they're failing, every time they fail, they learn something. And they build on that. And not only are the best ones learning from their own failures, they're looking at the failures of their teammates and learning from those people's failures. So don't be scared to fail. Fail is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow and refine yourself. Failure is something that you actually want to try to do. It helps grow character.
Alrighty, so something that I wanted to highlight and maybe dive a little bit deeper on is something that Todd had mentioned. So he said that it's really easy to sell when you know your product. So on the flip side of that, how difficult is it to sell when you don't know your product?
It's tough. No, I mean, when you're selling something, and think about interactions that you have with salespeople, you want to feel like they have confidence, that they understand what they're talking about, that they can communicate, and that they understand your needs and they can relate those to the products or services that they're selling. So when you first get going, that is the grind. That's when you're understanding the industry, that's when you're building your clientele base, and that's when I would say the majority of people who get into sales fail, is they can't get over that hump. But once you learn it, then you become confident, you become cool, you can become relaxed, and people a lot of times just relate to that vibe that you're giving off. So it's very, very important, I guess I would say.
Yeah, can I just answer that real quick? Let's just keep it, what do you guys say? Keep it 100. Let's try that. Let's just keep it 100 for it. If you don't know your stuff, you're not selling. Bottom line and period. There is no word trickery to that. If you don't know your stuff, you are not selling, and that's it. Because it takes you to be, by the way, that's part of the sales process, to know your product, to know your market, to know your people. And if you don't know that, then you're not selling. I was going out to get a Jeep a couple years ago. The guy sat in the car with me, and I was asking him a question. By the way, I've had Jeep for years and years and years. I love Wranglers, just what it is. And I was asking him some questions that I already knew the answer to, and he was just telling me a lot of mess that wasn't true. And I said, you don't have a clue. I didn't say this, by the way. But I said, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. And the truth is, if you don't know that, you're not selling. We wouldn't be sitting up here, and again, I'm just saying that as a point of reference. If you didn't know your stuff, you have to know your stuff. You can only BS for so long. And the reality is, it's because you need to gain trust. And the only time people are going to trust you is when they know that you know what you're talking about. And that's just the reality. So the direct answer to your question is, if you don't know your stuff, you're not selling. And that's just what it is, okay? At least that's my perception.
Totally agree. I'm going to come at it a little bit different because you all are sitting here in college trying to figure out if you want to be in sales. And you were the guy that knew you wanted to be in sales. Like I said, I didn't think I did. And when I got into recruiting, one of the things I saw was that a lot of people that did recruiting were kind of, I'm just going to say it, sleazy, the way they went about it. And I had a real moment when I got into it because I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be on the level. I'm going to treat people decently. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be me. And that's how I've always done it. Any of you all reach out to me, I got time for you. I'll make time for you, right? Because I genuinely want to do my job well, okay? And I think with sales, you want to do your job well, but you want to be yourself and do it your way. You can learn the skill sets and learn an industry or a business, but you want to be yourself. I'll tell you a real quick story, 30 seconds. I was going after a customer. I was working for a recruiter in downtown LA, Fifth and Fig, fancy building. Guy that owned it was driving a Mercedes, wore expensive suits. I had my little cheap suit and my Volkswagen. And I was working on a client. It was a lift company, like forklifts, and they were down in Vernon. And I'd been working on this customer, and the guy and I got along great. He was just a blue-collar guy, but they had a lot of need. And so we made an appointment to go down there. I was going to go down there, and the owner the guy I was working for, said, "Oh, we'll take my Mercedes, and I'll talk to this guy because you're young and you don't know what you're doing." And so we went down to Vernon to this lift place, and we took a meeting with the guy that I'd been talking to for weeks. And I didn't know that much, but he and I got along because I was being genuine. And the guy that my boss that went with me made a fool out of himself. He tried to act all slick and, like he was better than this guy and blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, we left. We rode back to the office downtown, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's the last I'm going to hear from that guy. I'm not going to get that job. And I looked, and there was a voicemail on my phone, and the guy that we had just been at his office had called between us leaving and getting back, and the message said, "You're a good guy. You're as good in person as you were on the phone, and I want to do business with you. You ever bring that other guy here again, we're done." There you go. There's the story.
So you guys mentioned that it can be pretty challenging if you don't know what product you are selling. Now, to all of these students here, what specific skills would you recommend that they should develop to help them be better salespeople?
So for me, I think that the biggest skills are active listening. To be able to respond or handle an objection, you have to hear it clearly. And so you got two ears, one mouth. Use the ears more than use the mouth. And then mirror and matching. So if you're in person, you want to mirror and match body language and tonality. If you're over the phone, you want to match tone. And I think those are the two biggest skills that I would recommend you guys trying to refine.
Target, from a story I just told, target industries and customers that fit who you are to some degree. There's industries that I wouldn't be any good in because it wouldn't fit my personality. One of the great things about our company is it fits my personality. The people and the industry and the culture fit my personality. So I think that's key. The other thing, and I say this to our trainees, is assume that most people are going to give 50% effort and consider it 100% effort. And so if you are on point with your follow-up, do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to deliver something on a particular day in a certain way, do it. If there's a problem, fix it. If you make a mistake, own it. Simple communication, treating people decently and how you would want to be treated, honorably. You can't, it's very difficult to unbuild a bad reputation, but if you start out with a good reputation and you work hard and you do what you say you're going to do and you're honorable, it's amazing how you'll get the breaks that you're looking for.
Yeah, not to overcomplicate things, just be cool. Be relatable. Be somebody that people don't mind talking to. Sitting down and having a conversation with somebody. It's been a while since I saw that movie Fight Club, but what was it? They had, go fight with a stranger, and that's how you get over being scared of getting in a fight. Go have a conversation with a stranger. That's something that I talk in interviews. When was the last time you had a conversation with a stranger? And certain people that probably aren't fit out for sales don't know how to answer that question. Other people are like, oh, I did it earlier today. I did it yesterday. I struck a conversation with the waitress, the person that was helping me at whatever. Refine those skills. Get used to just talking to somebody that you're not used to. And I think in this society nowadays, we're so consumed with this device that's in front of us, we forget about the people that are right next to us. And that's where the real world is, let's be honest. Okay, it's not doing Call of Duty. It's just talking to the guy next to you and being relatable. How was your day? How are things going? You like working here? How long you worked here for? Doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, and the word integrity too. I think it's great that we're at a Christian university because integrity is really high here, probably for all of us. And I think when you get in your professional career, that's always the same too, especially in sales. In sales, you're quoting prices, you have appointments. How many times are we a little bit late for the appointment, right? We want to be on time. We want to stick to our word and keep our promises. I once told a guy, if you buy these cell phones off of me, I'll bring you, I brought him a box of donuts. We all do things like that, right? But I said, I'll wash your car. He had a Mercedes-Benz out in the parking lot, so I said, I'll wash your car if you buy his phones off of me. And it was kind of half in joking, but he ended up buying the cell phones. And I said, well, Bob, I'll come on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. I'll bring your phones and I'll wash your car. So I get up in the morning, I get ready for work that day, and it's pouring down rain. And I'm going, all right, this works, So I show up, his car's clean, it's nice. I said, Bob, I washed your car, right? So, but integrity, it's huge in sales and anything you do in life, really, though.
Real quick, are you still selling cell phones or no?
No, that was some lives ago.
All right, just checking. I got a car. I can get washed. Sorry about that. What's? I got to go for it.
You go for it. Yeah. That's right.
What skill can I? Okay, let's try this. So everyone has to participate here. This is the only way that this is going to work. Do me a favor. If everyone can just please raise your hand for me. Everyone just raise your hand. Okay. Now raise it up higher. Now ask yourself, why didn't you do that the first time? Why didn't you put your hand up all the way the first time I asked you to put your hand up? So when we're talking about what skill you need in sales, it's recognizing that sometimes you only get one shot, one opportunity to either make a good first impression or to get the job done. And what I've learned in my sales career, what I've learned in life, period, is that anytime I go into any conversation, any environment, any transaction, you got to give everything you have in that moment. Because if you don't, you may miss an opportunity that you may not be able to get again. And so my mentality is when I walk into and I talk to people, it's always hand up all the way. Every chance, every door I knock on, every time I sit and talk to someone, it's hand up all the way. Because in this industry, in life, sometimes you only get one time to make a first impression. But even more importantly, sometimes you never get another shot to do something that was big enough to propel you into a successful place to make you a better person or evolve. So the thing that I want you to know, on top of what these gentlemen have set up on this stage as well, is that every moment you get, every chance you get, every opportunity, just like the master with the talents, right? Remember, the master gave the talents to the servants, and then the servants, he left, and then he came back, and he said, well, what did you do with the talents that I gave you? Right? The person that had 5, he doubled it. The person that had 2, he doubled it. The person who had 1, he went and buried it. Right? Why did he bury it? He was afraid. You need to walk into every opportunity, every moment, every environment with the mentality that you are going to throw your hand up in the air as high as it can go, and you're not going to put it down until it's time until the job is done. That's the skill that I would encourage you to do. That's the one thing that will keep you successful, not just in sales, but in life, period. And your schooling, when you go and you get that paper, you write that paper like you've never written another paper before. And then when you're done, you go back and you do the next one the exact same way. And if you continue to do that, when it's time to graduate, you're going to look at your GPA and you're going to nod your head, because that job is going to be looking at what skills and the information that you have from the college you went to, and they're going to realize that you're a hand raiser and not just somebody going in halfway. That's the skill that I would probably want to convey to you. And I'm hoping that you're hearing that, because that's important not just in sales, but in life.
Thank you. And Ralston, thank you for that analogy. I am sure I can speak for all of us when I say that when we move forward in our endeavors in life, we will want to raise our hand even higher. We'll have that running in the back of our mind. So thank you for sharing. As we are coming to an end for our Faith and Enterprise, I wanted to ask one last question. It's an audience question, and someone had submitted, What books on sales have been influential to you? I know, James, you mentioned one a little bit earlier in our discussion today. Maybe you could highlight that one again in case they want to write it down. And if any other of the panelists, if you guys have any books that you would recommend, please let us know.
I read a book called Action Selling, and for those of you that don't enjoy reading so much, it's not a big read, but I forget the author's name for some reason. But I read it at one of my previous sales jobs for a web design company, and it's more of a storyline. It's like, instead of tips and tricks, it's like a storyline of someone in sales living out his career. It's called Action Selling, and he's talking about any situation he gets into, he overcomes by using these tips, right? And so you learn tips and tricks, but however you do it through a storyline. So it's easy to remember, and they're very practical, like tie back, feature and benefit. You say a feature and benefit, you tie it back later on, so they remember, oh yeah, I got a feature and benefit out of this. This is worth buying, right? So tie back, features and benefits, things like that. Very practical book. Oh, The Power of Words was the Robert Morris, the other one that I referenced earlier.
Yeah, I read the both of those. Very good books. So I have two recommendations for you. The first one would be, I can't remember the author's name, but it was Who Moved the Cheese? Yeah. You guys read that one? Man, that is an amazing book, right? Because it really talks about the psyche of individuals as far as sales, or to make changes, or to just try to go through life and try to figure out the different type of people that are out there. So that's something that I think everybody would enjoy, whether you're in sales or you're not. But if you've ever read that book, you know how important it is and just the different symbolisms in it. And the second one is a little bit older, so you guys work with me here. I think some of the more mature individuals that's in the audience probably remember this guy. But it's a more video cassette. I know, I said video cassette. It's a more video cassette series. It's by a gentleman named Zig Ziglar. That guy. I remember we're listening to his tapes, and I listened to it many years into sales, and let me tell you, the motivation and the content that's involved in that will send you and it'll transcend you. Even though he probably did it like in the 80s or 90s, I can't remember but it is so relevant today. And I think that if you do both of those, you'll be on your way to being extremely motivated and at the very least having the great mindset.
Yeah, I like podcasts, TED Talks, things like that. There is one that I forget the exact title, but it's something like the ice cream comes after the string beans. So, you've got to put in the work first before you can enjoy things, right? So have priorities in your life, make sure that you set goals, and make sure that you understand that you've got to be working towards something, and that's got to come first before you have the fun, right? That's supposed to be the reward for the hard work. In that same vein, there's another book called Work for a Reason, right? I think so many times we're just chasing passions. Work is work, and it's hard, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. That's life, and we've just got to be adults, and we've got to own that. But yeah, that's mine.
There's two that I would recommend. To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. It's a book that really just explains sales from a perspective of relational selling, so relationship building. And there's another one, To Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. I recommend that book as well. It really takes a different perspective that selling is always happening, and it's either you selling or it's either you being sold, and it brings a really different perspective to it.
I'm going completely blank on the book. What's the little blue book that Jeff gives everybody on sales? The little blue paperback.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
That's a good one. Yeah. And I'm going blank on the name. So the little blue paperback that Jeff gives everyone. We give it to all our trainees. I can't think of it. If you think of it.
I can picture it.
Yeah, I can too. It's in my closet in my office. I know. Prepared as usual. The book that sticks in my mind that I've read in all my years for business that really stuck with me, and it's an older one. It's called The E-Myth. I think it came out in like 2005 or 4. My dad gave it to me, and usually when my dad gave me a book, oh boy. But this was a great one, and it's like a great book to kind of read, and it kind of outlines, you read it and look at it, and it sort of puts you into what a good career path for you is by going through this book. It was one of the few books that I ever read where I was like, wow, I really got something out of that, and I got a lot out of it that I didn't think was me. So it's called the E-myth.
Okay, thank you guys so much for sharing, and thank you guys so much for coming and enlightening all of us on the importance of sales. If you could give them a round of applause.
Just real quick, I know our time is up. If you're looking for a financial advisor or you need, this is a sales, right? We got to put that pitch in just to let you know. If you're looking for a financial advisor, let me know. If you have a business, if you have 401k, let me know. I can help you. I'm here in Riverside. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And as they take a seat, oh, hold on just a moment. I'm so sorry. We're almost finished. As they go and take a seat, there were many questions that you guys submitted that I did not have a chance to ask. If you're still interested in asking those questions, our panelist is going to be sticking around here at the end of this event. Please feel free to come up, talk with them, ask your questions. But other than that, let's welcome Dawn up for our closing prayer.
Thank you again so much. Thanks for your patience, you guys, on a Tuesday night. Thank you again for your time and for sharing the experiences you have. Everyone stand up, because I've been sitting a long time. We're going to stand up, and I'm just going to, yeah, I heard that. I'm going to go ahead and close this out in a word of prayer. Join me. Father, I thank you so much for this night. I thank you for this place. I thank you that we can talk about how to develop skills and how these skills can go serve us throughout our careers. I thank you for the time of our panelists and their generosity, their transparency, and the love they have for these students, Lord, that they would be kind enough to share their perspective. Lord, I pray that each of us would walk away with some nugget that you would allow to take root into our lives and hearts. And again, I thank you for the many, many hands that made this evening possible. And we are dismissed in your name. Amen. I want to thank our conferences and events folks for, give them a hand, please. They literally sent an army to help us record this. And so if you want to catch this, this will be up on the YouTube channel that we have for Jabs. And thank you, Sarah. Sarah, thank you for helping us out tonight.
Thank you.
No, you're... That was long. No.